If I knew the way, I'd go back home. But the countryside has changed so much, I'd surely end up lost. Half remembered names and faces so far in the past, on the other side of bridges that were burned once they were crossed. Tell me where does the fool go when there's no one left to listen to a story without meaning that nobody wants to hear? Tell me where does the fool go? He knows there's something missing. Tell me where do I go from here?
Hi, Steve.
Where do I go from here?
Hello. Hi, everyone. So, got an interesting concept today from you.
Yep, I thought today we would have a look at the album that we, of course, know as the Fool album, though its actual title is, of course, Elvis, which is not very helpful as a title. So I thought we would look at this period in Elvis's career, how the album came about, what RCA intended to release, what they actually released, variations of it, the songs they used on the album, and then we would look at what we personally thought they could have done much better, come up with our own concepts. So Adam, if you want to start with the original intended album.
Okay. So on the FTD vinyl release of Elvis Fool, you get the supposed original album track listing, which is side 1, Fool, Where Do I Go From Here, Blue Hawaii, which from the lower, Early Morning Rain, It's Impossible, which is another live take from Vegas, it must be, Reconsider Baby, which they class as a blues jam, which I don't get. Now that's going to be from Madison Square Garden.
I would think so. Yeah.
Which wasn't released at the time. Hawaiian Wedding Song, Kuaiipo, I'll Take You Home Again, Kathleen, and No More. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tracks that were recorded at the end of the main Aloha concert.
And if you add in Reconsider Baby, it would be an album largely that we'd already heard the songs.
Well, that's right. It's and it's nearly a live album in a way. And like you were saying earlier, if that was the original concept for the album, did it get pulled last minute and changed?
And that could be why the track listing on the released album, on the cover, the sequence is different. And it actually has a little note saying, for actual track listing, see the record label, which seems very slapdash, but this could be why it was a last-minute decision. I do wonder if calling it a blues jam was trying to disguise the fact that it was another re-released track.
Yeah, well, it was just another live recording, wasn't it? I mean, it's a good live recording, but to call it a jam, as if it's something that wasn't premeditated, that to me is a jam when a group of musicians sit down and they just start, which Elvis often did in the studio. And really there were quite a few releases over the year that he probably wasn't intending to record, where he did 1 take or 2 takes and they were just deemed good enough to release.
Yeah.
And it's a very strange set list. And I think in 1973 to revisit Blue Hawaii tracks.
On what was going to be a regular album release.
There's no way forward there, was there?
No, it doesn't make sense. And what's frustrating, of course, is after the massive success of Aloha, both the television show and the album, you had a lot of the general public buying Elvis for the first time in a long time. We know the fans would always buy the releases, and that was enough to make it profitable and make it successful. But it's when the general public starts buying that you have the really big hits. So you had this potential now. You had an audience waiting, what is his next release going to be? And I think RCA just missed the boat completely.
Yeah, and I think to present to people who've watched the Aloha and have been impressed with the performance and the vocals and the band and everything, then to be presented with that, I think it was doing him a disservice, really, because whichever version you look at, the intended version or the rearranged final version, they're collecting up a lot of leftovers, you know. And even though I love, in isolation, I love all the tracks.
Absolutely, yes.
On the album, and you know, some of them I can listen to over and over. But as an album, it didn't present Elvis in 1973, who's just done the biggest concert event ever. It didn't make any sense, did it? It was almost like, did they actually need to release an album then?
I guess they wanted to cash in on the success.
Yeah.
But the reason, you know, how I know it doesn't work, it's not an album I play. Yeah. I will listen to the tracks on compilations and enjoy them, but I can't remember the last time I thought, I'm going to put the full album on and listen to it.
Yeah.
For me, it just doesn't work. And,
you know, the poor sod, he's just done that performance, and he must have been absolutely drained. You know, it's like, you know, I compare it to a boxer, like the world heavyweight champion. He's just been in the ring, done the 12 rounds, won the championship, and then someone asks him to do some sort of sparring bout afterwards.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. And to put him in that situation, why didn't they do these fill-in songs on the 12th? Either before the show, when he'd been revved up a bit, or after that one when there was no pressure on him, or you know, because it must have been some pressure to get that performance across.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, I know we got used to him just delivering, but must have taken its toll at the time. And then to throw him back into Vegas straight afterwards. I mean, he's probably not going to be in the right mind to worry about that. I think the only good thing about the release, even though I still like the album, you know, it's Elvis and the good songs. It actually had the Aloha images on it, which needed to be used at some time because they are pretty stunning.
But it's a shame that, you know, we see Aloha as another big moment in his career. And each time he'd had these big moments, as with coming back from the army, the 68 special, these big moments led to him moving forward in his career to the next stage. But the Aloha, the momentum from the Aloha was frittered away because afterwards it was more of the same. You know, it should have been the world tour. It should have been a new direction.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and we've heard the some of the soundboards from the 73 Vegas shows, and he was feeling it, wasn't he? You know, you could tell he was so disappointed to be back in that trap. It was definitely an opportunity for a huge change.
And you have to wonder what held him back. Because we know he wanted to tour abroad.
Mm.
And that would have been the challenge that he needed, because every time he was given a challenge in his career, he soared way beyond it.
Yeah.
You know?
I think with Elvis, he did step up even with things he wasn't happy with. If a contract was made for him to do something, whether it was a film or concert, whatever, he did it, didn't he?
Mm. So do you want to show now what they actually did release?
Yeah, so I've got 4 versions in total. So we've had a look at the FTD vinyl. We got the CD one as well. Both slightly different in the presentation.
Yeah.
And then you've got I've got the UK copy, and this is on an orange Dynaflex. I'll just see if I can get rid of the glare and show that. It's a really nice copy. But I didn't realise when I first got it or re-added it to my collection that this is a Canadian pressing on a UK print cover. And then my other version of it, which looks the same, orange label, but it's not Dynaflex, and this is a UK pressing, as far as we can tell, and cover is made in England. So that's my 2 original copies. I'd love to get a US.
It's strange that I also have a UK sleeved copy that I assumed was a UK made disc, and it's only when I looked at it for this that too is Canadian pressing. So clearly they imported discs from Canada to sell in the UK. Yeah,
and I do wonder, what was the reason for that? Was that still part of the oil crisis, or?
Quite possibly, but it's surprising, even though this album didn't sell in vast quantities. You would have thought the UK could produce enough discs to satisfy demand, and yet they found it necessary to import discs from Canada.
Yeah, it's very strange, and even you got books like Elvis on Record, the original, and it does list the UK and the Canadian as a UK release.
Yeah.
But it doesn't give you any more information on that. The latest book from Joseph Tunzi, that shows you the back covers of them. There's no sort of alternate release information on that. So,
what do you think about the decision not to call the album Fool?
Fool was a single, and it's probably the only track on there that is a more up-to-date Elvis, and probably a finished product as well, because you look at the leftovers go back to 71, 72. It's don't look bad there to me.
No, I have no problem with it.
I don't know. And the original single has Fool all over it, doesn't it? Song.
I don't know if it's true, but you do hear that they didn't want to put Elvis Fool. But I don't see that it would have been a problem.
I kind of get that, but I don't think I'd pick it up and think, "Oh, Elvis, you fool."
Yeah.
I think I'd just relate. That's what the song's called.
Yeah.
Ironically,
we all know it as the Fool album.
Yeah. But, but we don't think of it in a bad way, do we? We don't,
No.
and we don't relate it to him himself. It's just, you know, a good track, a nice track. It's funny, like you say, you know, why didn't it sell in big quantities? Because it's just on the lower and it's got pretty good image. You know, better than a lot of the images on the live use of photos on the album cover. You know,
and the irony, of course, is if they didn't want to call it Fool because of the connection, they then go and stick a great big sticker on the front of the cover that says Fool.
Yeah.
So
I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
Oh dear.
What we need is Mr. T to come on now.
Yeah. If that fool don't stop that crazy TV talk, I'm gonna knock him out over the airways for real.
Yeah.
But then you look at the track list and you think, okay, so if the album didn't sell as well, even though he's had the biggest hype and promotion for it, was it because there was just nothing on there for the radio stations to play?
If you read the reviews, I looked at the newspaper archive, the reviews for the album, and they tended to be, he sounds very good, but the songs don't inspire me. There's nothing special that stands out, and there's nothing that's rock. That was in quite a few of them. There's no rock on the album.
Yeah. Now, I think another thing with the songs on the album, they've all been edited right down. There's a lot of short versions. And it's like with the Elvis at the piano tracks, when they were released on the Elvis Aaron Presley, they were some of my favorite tracks off that album. I loved them. And I couldn't stop playing them because it's just pure and simple, you know.
But then we listen to this as fans. But my perspective is we've got to think they needed to get this to appeal to the general public. As a fan, we want to hear Elvis sat at the piano, playing the piano and singing.
Yeah.
Would it have made a difference if they'd have added other instruments to those songs?
Well, for the album, they'd already heavily overdubbed them, hadn't they, with strings and things. But I think the songs were just edited down so much they were hard to get into. They just sort of come and all I remember is when I was a teenager and I first played it, and just thinking, well, the song's come and it's gone so quickly. And if there was ever a chance of a credible jam, don't think twice. Was the jam?
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
Someone must have had that in their mind when they came up with that jam section, and you know, maybe if at the piano, if they'd played each track into the other or something and called it just Elvis at the piano, and it just have a flow and things. But you know, I mean, this is sometimes where I feel like Felton need a bit of a kick. You know, just you know, maybe it was thanks to him the first version didn't get released, and maybe he was just struggling under pressure to get something out that it wasn't allowing him to be creative enough himself, because he was obviously a very capable guy. You just look at the stuff that had been released.
But I'd like to think, you know, we're looking at Aloha as Elvis's chance to move on in his career. So as well as a world tour or a tour of Europe to start with, maybe it was time to break with Felton, to get a more contemporary producer in, to update Elvis's sound, to say, okay, we've done that. We've done the lush orchestrations. Let's move on to something different. So again, that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like all of us in life, we get stuck in a rut, don't we? get up in the morning, we go to
Comes too
work, we
easy.
come home, we're fed up. You know, we don't make the most of our lives when we do come home. And I think, you know, everyone gets a bit that way. And I think Elvis was just put back straight after a lower. He was put back in that rut of you're going to live in Vegas for a month and you're going to do 2 or 3 shows a day, and you know, and when you got time, you're going to pop in and try and record some records, and then you're going to leave them to Felton, and then Parker's going to sign you up for another horrible deal in Vegas for another 6 years or 5 years. Like, you can see where he is.
Yeah.
But
he needed to be stronger to take control of his career.
Yeah. I think, you know, he was only human, and I guess really we always look for someone to blame, whether it's Parker or Elvis, and I think, you know, it needed some new creativity.
Yeah.
I think Elvis was up for it, always up for it, but it needed to be different, and he needed pushing into it. This is where his friends and things worked, you know, because it's easy to blame them as well and saying, why you just let him go on like that. It's like, you know,
it does seem that Parker manipulated him a lot to move him away from his own ideas of what he wanted to do into what the big corporations with the money wanted him to do.
Yeah.
You do get that impression very much. One of the great tragedies, of course, that if you listen to the people around Elvis, at the very end of his life, they all say that he had firmly made his mind up that things were going to change and he was going to do big things. They actually use that phrase that he said, we're going to do big things. And, you know, he was determined that he was going to tour Europe, come to England first. There's the talk of David Bowie producing a session. So again, let's move on to a different producer, a more contemporary, modern producer. And it's a great tragedy that he didn't get the chance to do these things. Yeah.
And we know when you put him with a couple of decent musicians and a decent producer and everything, he could adapt and you know, work at his best. He always did.
With the album, of course, we've got the Japanese edition with the obi, and what I particularly like about the Japanese is they went for a different back cover, which is a great shot with the cape over his arm.
Yeah, that's a good look.
So I like that.
Is that a gatefold, did you say?
No, single. It comes with an insert with text on it. This is the Spanish pressing. Now, a lot of these are very similar. There wasn't much variation, but this one is different in that on the back, they have the songs titles in English and in Spanish.
Right.
They also have the correct song sequence printed on the cover. So this must be a slightly later pressing. I do like the fact that fool translates as Tonto.
Tonto,
hi-ho silver. So, and this last one. Now, the cover was printed in America. I'd never actually looked at the label that closely. I assumed it was a German pressing with the black label.
Yeah, you would.
Having a close look at it, it's RCA Rome, Italy.
Right.
So again, we have the record made in a different place to the cover, which seems to crop up quite a lot, surprisingly. So, as we're saying, the songs that actually did appear, Fool, which of course was the single, Where Do I Go From Here? It's Impossible. It's still here, I will be true. I'll take you home again, Kathleen. That's what you get for loving me. Padre, don't think twice, it's all right. And love me, love the life I lead. So as we said, the songs themselves are fine songs. He sings them well. There's nothing wrong with the songs. I just don't think as a sequence on an album, particularly at this moment in his career, it was the right album to release. And its failure to take off after the success of Aloha sort of confirms that for me. So the next part of the video is we're going to play a little game, a fantasy game. Now, we have the benefit of hindsight, of course, which they completely lacked. What would we have done differently? So what we're looking at is a complete new concept to mark Elvis's moving on in his career to a new stage. So design the album cover front and back and come up with the track selection. So I'll show you my album cover. Now, what I wanted to do with this is completely break away from everything that had come before to show that this was a new stage. This was a new Elvis. Things were changing. So we have a startling white cover with a great contemporary picture of Elvis on a motorbike. He looks great. It's a great picture. And where do I go from here?
Yeah.
This sums up that this is a new stage. This is a new part of his career. He's going to be moving on.
It definitely stands out. It would stand out on the shelf, wouldn't it, compared to...
It would, yeah. I think it would make people pick it up. They would look at it. What's this?
Yeah.
Totally unexpected. So the song selection. Now for this, songs that were available, Elvis had recorded them. The strongest set of songs, in my opinion, that we could put out to appeal not just to the fans, but to the general public and to the music critics. So this is what I came up with. So straight away, we satisfy the question, where's the rock? Burning Love.
Yeah.
It had been a single. It had a lot of radio play. So the general public would have looked at it. I know this song. I like this song. I heard it on the radio. It's Only Love. Again, it had been a single. They may well have heard it. Always on My Mind. Great song. Don't Think Twice. This is the unusual thing. This is a Dylan song. This will take them by surprise. I'm Leaving. Just a piece of pure class. Fantastic song. Elvis took a lot of trouble recording this song. He thought a lot of it. And I think it's a fantastic piece of work. So we close the album at the side A with that. Side B, Soundly or Cry. A tour de force vocal performance. I think it's a fantastic song. It should have been a massive hit. A Matter of Time, a fine song. Separate Ways, another great song that again had been a single. So again, we have the public recognition. I've heard that song. I like it. For the Good Times, a new track. Another great song. And we end with Where Do I Go From Here? Which I've had to shorten to get onto the sleeve.
Yeah.
So at the bottom, we have the Aloha album, which would have been fresh in their minds. It's the big hit album of the year so far. We have a shot from Aloha, but we have a shot of Elvis in the studio as well. And in the center, we have another shot of Elvis leaving on his plane. So for me, it all fits this concept. I think it would grab the public's attention. The songs are very strong. There's not a weak song on there. So again, the critics who review it would hopefully recognize that this is a great set of songs. So I think this would have had a chance of breaking out of just the fan buying it. And it could have been one of his, classic albums of the 70s. So that's my concept.
Yeah, and it's it definitely works. It'd be a killer album, wouldn't it? What, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you got 6 fantastic tracks there. The others are good, probably because when you came up with this concept, and I thought, right, where do I go from here with it? And I thought, well, I'm probably just going to come up with a repeat of what you've done. The title would have to be either Where Do I Go From Here or Burning Love. And then probably the only track I would have swapped out on yours was I'd add Fool in. And I'd probably take it out For the Good Times and leave it for a B-side. Yeah. Just because it's not my favourite recording of those sessions.
Yeah.
But Burning Love and I'm Leaving and Separate Ways to have a rightful place on an album instead of a Camden. You know, you can't put them in with some movie songs.
No.
You know. Yeah. And especially not the best movie songs ever that you did. Do you know what I mean? Even if they were the best, it could have been but we all love Camdens for different reasons. So but Burning Love, Separate Ways, Always on My Mind, should never have been on a budget. You know, especially when you're taking a load of leftovers and things that were, 5 songs that were never made for an album. They were just made for adverts to cover advert spots, and they served the purpose then. They do, and I would have pretty much come up with the same album, Steve. I think there was just one change there, which is why you led me to having to go a completely different way with it.
Right.
I completely designed the album just like yours, but different looking, probably around Burning Love, and then I had to scrap that and think there's no point in presenting the same thing to you or to everyone. And if we're going to rewrite history, let's go to town on it.
Yep.
That's the brief I came up with. So really what I decided to do was rewrite 1973 completely after the Aloha show. And Fool is no more. Fool's been wiped off the face of the planet. And now it's been replaced with all brand new recordings. All the leftovers are going to be used as B-sides and Camdens and things like that. And Elvis is going to go to London and he's going to record some new music in new ways with new people. But it's still going to be very connected to Aloha. And there's a reason for that. So this is rewriting history. So January the 14th, Elvis conquers the world with his outstanding Aloha from Hawaii satellite performance. Job done. January 26th to February 23rd, he has to complete another month on stage in Las Vegas. But with a visit to London in mind, he's working on some arrangements of certain songs. And he's got an end goal to the end of the month. So February, the Aloha soundtrack's released, which is a #1 smash in America. And it's a multi-platinum selling album globally. Probably all the platinum credits haven't been claimed for yet. It must be 6 or 7 already the last time I looked for details, and it's probably more. So now we get to the album. So we've got Elvis Presley taking care of business in London. Obviously the TCB is very focal here. So in March 1973, Elvis travels to London, England for visits and planning. During this 2-week visit to the UK, a full week's recording session has been booked at Abbey Road Studios, where the UK's rock royalty will help him create the next album release. Taking care of business in London. While in London, a series of 3-night concerts are booked for November 1973 in the following capitals: London, Paris, Madrid, Berlin, and Rome, ending with a concert in Washington, DC when he gets home. July 1973, Elvis is booked in for a week's recording session working with writer, musician, recording artist, and producer Isaac Hayes, along with members of the Stax House Band and the TCB Band, with an option to extend the session as required if Elvis needs to record more. August 6th to September the 3rd, 1973, Elvis finishes his last commitment at Las Vegas, and that's him done. He's left to move on with his career. 1974, he commences the world tour, breaking all attendance records, and picks up his movie ambitions by making himself available for a co-starring role in hand-selected movies at least once per year. The story continues. That's my 1973, and don't judge me by my very knocked together artwork for an album cover. But you got obviously Elvis looking regal in a regal location.
Yeah.
And I thought I'd do a black and white version as well, just to, it might be a bit more arty and a bit more 1973, you know. And then we're on to the track list and the recording session at Abbey Road. So Abbey Road's booked. He's got a full week. He's got days before to sort of meet and greet people and do all that sort of business. But previous to this, an invite's gone out to the rock world, and he's joined by Tom Jones, George Harrison, Eric Clapton, Fleetwood Mac, Elton John, Pink Floyd. They all, you know, it could be any. There's so many artists you could, you know. You could take British rock and rollers like Cliff Richard. You could throw in so many. But the concept is two different sides of recordings. Side one is the blues jam. It's called. And with these rock artists and Felton, as well as George Martin, behind the desk producing, arranging the session, they re-record studio versions of Burning Love, Steamroller Blues, CC Rider, Mystery Train, Tiger Man, Polk Salad Annie, and Lady Madonna, Get Back. All songs, apart from Burning Love, that are associated with Elvis and have become favourites, with many of them performed live, now recorded in the studio. And that whets the appetite and makes everyone happy with the rock side of Elvis's music. Side two are called the Vocal Symphony side. Now this is getting together JD, Kathy Westmoreland, his great vocal backup, with maybe one of these tracks is a duet with Tom Jones. What Now My Love, or You Gave Me a Mountain, or something like that. You've got George Harrison on something. But this is recorded with the orchestra, with the symphony orchestra.
Right.
So you've got the TCB band, you've got the backup singers, you've got the guests, but this is where George Martin really comes in, because he creates this arrangement, this orchestra with Glenn D. Harden.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you can get here is, could you imagine sort of George Harrison, playing guitar with John Wilkerson and things like this. And, if you got Ringo Starr in, could you imagine Ronnie Tutt and Ringo Starr both on drums?
Yeah.
You imagine the sound you would get, and obviously Abbey Road record things a little bit bright and probably not up to RCA's usual recording quality, but that's taken away then, and Felton does his work to bring it all together, with the master recordings. And again, we got Welcome to My World, It's Over, Something, You Gave Me a Mountain, What Now My Love, and ending with My Way. All tracks associated with Aloha.
Mm-hmm.
But now we get the studio versions. And we basically got the best of Elvis, the rock blues side, and the big emotional ballad vocal symphony side. And just in case you don't like the colour version, we have the black and white. We have the alternate back cover.
Right.
And the idea, that image would have been that symphony, the guests, the TCB band, with Elvis stood at the front of them, orchestrating them, giving it his vocals.
Yeah. When you said vocal symphony, what popped into my head, and I would have loved to have seen this, Elvis and Freddie Mercury, because they both had this very bombastic operatic style. And we know that Freddie Mercury was a big admirer of Elvis.
Yeah.
What could they have done together on some of these tracks?
Oh, I know. And, there's a story there for me. When I was a kid, there was they were mainly teenagers down the road where I lived, but for some reason they sort of, because on the same sort of close, they'd let me go in their house and hang around with them. I guess I always got on with older people and more mature people, even as a kid. And they were quite rich, this family. They had one of the big houses on the estate. And I remember them letting me into the house, and they had this fantastic hi-fi system. Must have cost a fortune at the time. And they played me a Queen LP.
Right.
And from that day onwards, I was fascinated with speakers and audio. Not just the music, but the equipment. As you can see behind me, I like to have all the different formats. And I'll say musically in life, there's two things that changed my direction, especially music, was hearing Hound Dog by Elvis. I was forever just into Elvis. And hearing Queen, the production. What could come out of those two stereos and the imaging and the mixing and and that's, I'm not an audiophile, but I just love what can be done.
Yeah.
I'm not going to spend $100,000 on a record player.
No.
But you can buy good stuff on a reasonable budget, and if I can hear it, And so Freddie Mercury, you could You could just think of an endless list of people, couldn't you?
Yeah, it's such a shame that Elvis never got to experience that. You know, these days we're used to big stars getting together and producing music. Elvis missed out on that.
Yeah. And I think with George Martin, he would have experienced something different.
Mm.
And I think he would have pushed things a certain way, you know. But this was Elvis coming to London, and this was the start of it all.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, a different, but taking care of business, like, you know, letting everyone know and putting them in their place.
Mm.
He was in town, and
The king has arrived. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would have been like all these, you know, big British stars would have been his worshippers because they were all in awe of him. They all many times said, you know, they owed their careers to him, that he inspired them. So it would have been the king holding court.
Yeah. You look at someone like George Harrison. George Harrison is he's never come across as the happiest of people, has he? He's always been quite straight, you know. But you watch him when he was playing with Carl Perkins. He was like a little kid in a candy shop, just sat there watching him playing with one of his idols, and you can imagine what it had been like with Elvis, you know. And imagine doing that, what I call that vocal symphony. But imagine everyone just sat there in awe, wouldn't they? You know, we've seen his vocal power in January. You know, imagine that produced in the studio.
And if the word got out, who would turn up?
Oh, everyone would want to.
Robert Plant would walk in, and people,
yeah,
come along.
That's definitely rewriting history.
But it's interesting that, you know, I came at it from what could have been possible with what was there, and you've come at it what could have been done if he'd completely thrown the rulebook out and started from scratch on a new direction. Yeah.
And he'd still been in his comfort zone because he would have been doing songs he knew. He would have been with good musicians, good producers, a good studio, with his own people, you know, and all the guests that were there to see him were also there to see his musicians.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So the atmosphere, I mean, who wouldn't want to sit next to James Burton and play guitar with him? It was a complete no-brainer. It was just, yeah.
And Elvis would also have been exposed to some of the most creative songwriters of that period. So again, once the personal connection is made with these people, they're going to offer him songs. And you can get rid of this stupid, you know, the company has to get a cut of this. Throw that away. That hampered Elvis's career immensely. Open him up to the best songwriters.
Yeah. And you can imagine everyone would want to approach him. You know, that's why I put him down for 2 weeks in London, with a week doing the serious business, but a week just to plan his year, get his commitments out of the way, and then say, no, that's it, I'm done. Yeah.
If only we could go back and steer him in another direction.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it's a bit of a fantasy land, but it was all possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But like you said, the obvious way was just to change the tracks and use better tracks, and there were plenty of them. Yeah. I like to go at something.
Yeah. It was it's something a bit different to what we normally do.
Yeah.
You start thinking then all sorts of, I've always said I would love for him to have sat down with Bob Dylan and Dylan just offer him songs.
Yeah.
We could have very easily got another gospel album out of Dylan's 3 gospel albums, which whether you're religious or not, the music is just fantastic. The songs are amazing songs, and I think Elvis would have loved them.
Yeah. And there were plenty of people doing it as well. Bob Dylan, Johnny Cash. That Johnny Cash and Elvis were very aligned with the type of music they would delve into. Obviously from a similar background and period and things. But you look at Little Richard, when he gave up the rock and roll for a while and he went into more gospel and things like that, and he would have been a good person. Jerry Lewis, to actually sit and work with him again, it just, yeah. There's so much.
So much we missed out on. That's the great tragedy.
Yeah. Yeah.
What could have been.
Things might have been different if he'd lived into the 80s. Music was changing. It was, it sort of got better and then worse again. And, for a period, but, look at all the musical styles that were around then. You don't know.
And if you listen to Moody Blue, I remember back when I was first hearing Moody Blue, wow, this is more contemporary pop sound from Elvis. To me, that was something just a bit different.
Yeah, and I've heard some fans call it like a disco type beat. I don't quite hear the disco, but I know what you mean. It is different. Yeah, but even Moody Blue was just shy of another recording session, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I actually think the quality of the tracks, the non-live stuff, is really good. Pledge of My Love, Way Down. I really like It's Easy for You.
Yeah.
They're all really good tracks.
And it's a good album. It is. But again, the great tragedy of him not doing the Nashville session.
Yeah.
Because from what we've seen, there were some very good songs selected.
Yeah. There's one song, I'm not sure if that was a Dennis Lind, called Day by Day. It was, I don't know if you've heard the version of it. It's brilliant. And it's a really good upbeat song as well. Yeah. Rainy Night in Georgia was another that was penciled, wasn't it? Tony Joe White song, Natural for Elvis. He'd already been there several times, hadn't he?
Yeah.
So.
Oh dear. So there you have our opinions of the full album and the concepts that we came up with, how we would have done things differently. What do you think of them? Do you have any ideas? What would you have done differently? And hopefully it will spark some conversation as to what could have been had RCA taken a bit more care with this release, where it could have led. So thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thank you to Adam for his concept. A lot of thought behind it. And if you want to say any last words?
Yeah, no, just thanks for coming up with this concept. It's been an interesting challenge to come up with something different. And it's just a shame we'll have to keep thinking what could have been. But yeah. No, thanks, Steve.
Okay, thank you then. Bye-bye.
Cheers, everyone. Bye.
Bye.